Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I am coming at you from Turlock, California, here at Harvest Church. We just had 4 days of very intense conference, and I feel great. But I can tell that I'm in that hangover phase of a conference. I'm just apparently I'm functional today. I've had other seasons where I couldn't even function the next day, but apparently I'm doing pretty good today. I'm coming to you with a question and then some discussion, hoping to answer that question only because it comes up so much. And we're in probably a good season to answer this question. Once we start heading towards the elections in the USA again, might not be the best timing to answer this kind of question because I'm sure this will be, coming up a lot. And it's better to have this nailed in and nail it down before it's right in our faces and have our hearts set on what we're going to do and how we're going to react, how we're going to respond when these things come up. I think this is a good time to do that. All right. So what's the question? The question is, what do you do if you dream about judgment coming to your nation? What do you do if you have a judgment dream and it's about the nation that you live in? And every once in a while, I don't know about you, but I've had dreams, that appear like some kind of disaster or judgment or something like that. And I've had those dreams before. What do you do with that? And that's the question I want to answer. And it does fit in line with a couple of things that I have on the horizon. I have an online event. It's called Awaken the Dreamscape. It's connected to a book that I'm releasing in the front of 2024. I don't have the exact date, but it's going to be released then. But I'm actually going to have this event a few months ahead of time. I'm going to have this event on 11/11 of all days. Isn't that like an amazing date? And I'm actually going to have this event. I'm going to talk about the supernatural nature of dreams. And why am I having the event is because I know God is going to really awaken that realm. It's one of God's answers to the technology that seems to be taking over. That seems like, information is all, like right there. We can know anything, anywhere. What does that do to words of knowledge and the prophetic and all those kind of things? Well, the Lord is going to start working in the dream realm. And in the dream realm, you can't Google it. You can't, you can't AI chat that. You can't do any of that. All right. The dream realm is the standard of the Lord that's going to be released into the earth. And so I know this is something that we need to lay hold of, and the Lord's going to do some powerful things. There's going to be an accuracy that's going to come into that whole realm. It's going to shock you. I've already seen a few glimpses of what God's going to do with that. And I am shocked. And so anyway, it kind of flows in line with that. And I have an event, 11/11. It's online. I want you to be a part of that. And there should be some information that's being dropped to you about that, or it's in the description line there. And then also, even moving past that, we have the Seers and Dreamers gathering at Paradox Church in Western Australia. We had our first one last year. It was epic. And I know it's going to be even greater. When seers and dreamers and prophetic people come together, there's an amplification of the prophetic. So that's going to be February 29th through March 2nd. And I definitely want you to take the leap with us, and let's begin to lay hold of that realm like never before. Okay, back to the question. What do you do if you have a judgment dream and it's about your nation? What do you do? Okay, because it does happen. Well, the first thing that we want to do, and this is just good protocol everywhere, is we want to test the spirits. We want to test the spirit of the dream. Where is this dream really coming from? That's 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. Dear friends, stop believing every spirit. Instead, test the spirit to see whether they are from God. So stop believing every dream is from God, and it is the narrative that, is the first thing that pops into your head. Okay, stop believing that. Actually stop and actually test it. How do we test it? Well, here's my first question. Was it really a judgment dream? And the reason I'm asking that, is like, did God actually say it was a judgment dream? Did he speak that to you? Was it very, very clear? This is the Lord. It is a judgment dream. It is on your nation. Or did you just see some kind of disaster? Okay. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. Did you see some kind of disaster? Did you see bombs? Did you see earthquakes, fires, all of the above? Did you see just scenes like that? That's it. Okay. Nothing really clear about judgment, but you saw some disaster. And did a narrative pop into your head? Okay, so because that happens sometimes. Sometimes we have dreams like that, and we might fall into a presumptive narrative based on what other people have said, based on maybe some preconceived ideas about that kind of scenes, those kind of scenes in our dreams. Maybe we've been listening to some pastors or some ministers who've been talking about judgment on your nation, and then we have this dream and we maybe put some things together, just presuming it. We want to really flesh that out, because it's very different to have a dream where God is saying, I'm judging this nation, and then to have a dream where you just see a bunch of disaster, because just seeing a bunch of disaster is not necessarily a judgment dream. Okay. So I want to pull those apart and ask that question. And then my next question is, what did you feel after the dream? What did you feel like emotionally? Did you feel a choking fear? Because that choking fear, well, that's actually not the Lord. That's actually a demonic narrative, because God's not given us a spirit of fear. He's given us power, love, and a sound mind. So that choking fear, hyper burden, sense of no hope, hopelessness, there's nothing you can do about it. That feeling, if you identify that feeling as coming out of that dream, you come out of a dream feeling like that, well, that is not the Lord. That is a demonic dream to scare you, to distract you from your God-given purpose. If you're a prophet, to actually get words in your mouth that God never authored, actually demonic narratives, that's a dream in an attempt to get demonic narrative out your mouth. Because if you're a prophet, you start talking like that, it's still, you still have some firepower, and you could actually cause some people to believe things and get into a negative agreement, and perhaps cause some things to actually start taking place. So consider that if you wake up with that kind of, feeling after a dream like that. Or did you have a sense of urgency? Because that's different. Maybe you had a dream and you see a bunch of disaster scenes and you have a sense of urgency. Well, consider this, that these kind of dreams can be very, very emotional, and you want to get past the emotion so that you can discern clearly. Now, in testing the spirits, testing this, and deciding, where did this dream come from? What was the source of it? Here's another question you need to consider. How do you feel about your nation? Are you mad at your nation? Are you mad at things that are happening? Do you feel like everybody is evil and sinister, and you're under a sinister canopy of authority? And is this what you feel about your nation? Because that can actually show up in a narrative in your dreams, especially if you're spiritual, if you're prophetic, you're intercessory. That kind of narrative can show up in your dreams. And face it, some of our nations, there's some pretty sinister stuff happening. It can be frustrating. It could be something that we're living with, maybe not processing well, and it could actually show up in our dreams that way. Now, when you have a dream like that, you want to go to the scriptures. Let's look at what God has done in the past when the Lord was getting ready to judge Israel, or another nation, but especially Israel, when he was getting ready to judge Israel. And it was for sin. It was for things that they did against him, his people, Israel. It says, we see a few times in the Bible that he would go look for an intercessor. Okay, we see that a few times. Isaiah 59:16. We also see in Ezekiel 22, verse 30. It says, and I sought for a man among them who should build up the wall and stand in the breach before me for the land, that I should not destroy it. And unfortunately, we read the whole verse. It says, but I found none. Now, here's the thing. When God says a dream like that, he's looking for an intercessor. And you know what I believe is that he's not going to be in a situation where there is none, that he actually is seeking an intercessor, and he will find one. And so if you're having a dream like that and you've just tested it and you discerned it and it feels like some kind of judgment or something like that, he's looking for an intercessor. This is what God wants out of you. He doesn't want you to come in agreement with it. He doesn't want you to say, yeah, go ahead. He doesn't want you to post about it. He doesn't want you to, do a television show on it and how God's going to judge the land. He doesn't want you to write a book on it. He wants you to intercede. He's looking for an intercessor. Okay. And so, just reason with me here. You know the Bible, right? I'm sure you do. Is God a respecter of persons? Is God a respecter of persons? Let's talk about judgment against nations. Is God a respecter of persons? Well, we know that he's not. And I would like to propose that if he is, it could happen. There could be a dream like this. If he is judging one nation, when you judge them all, it seems like, especially in America, I don't know about other nations, but in America especially, there's kind of like this thing where there's all these dreams and books and rhetoric about God judging America. And I hate to tell you this, but America is no different than other nations. And God is not a respecter of other person. We're not getting words like this for other nations, at least not here. I remember back in the day, there's all of this prophetic word against California. I live in California. There's a prophetic word against California. California's going to fall into the ocean. There's going to be an earthquake, and California's going to fall into the ocean. And this prophetic word has been circulating for years. I think it was started by, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it began with William Branham. And he was a minister, and he didn't do well in California. He didn't like California. He thought California was full of sin and all sorts of stuff. And then, fast forward, people have been saying, all sorts of stuff about California, and especially citing certain sins in California, certain sins that other states in the United States they actually stepped into these sins way sooner than California did. I can give you some historical record on that. But either way, okay, the only one getting the dream and the disaster dream and the disaster word is California, despite all of that. And I have to tell you, God is no respecter of persons. So if he's judging one, he's judging them all. And then at the same time, even if he was giving that kind of information, even if he was giving dreams like that, what is he doing? He's looking for an intercessor. He's looking for an intercessor. And so what he's calling out with a dream like that is not a book, not a TV show, not a social media post. What he's calling out is intercession. You say, well, what do I do if I have a dream like that? Do I give voice to it? Do I tell anybody about it? Well, I know for myself, I've had some dreams before. Most of them I didn't give voice to. I actually prayed into them. I prayed. I felt a sense of burden. When you feel burden, that's like a prayer burden. It feels like a weight. You feel an urgency to pray. And so you actually pray into what you saw, but you pray in the opposite direction. And as you do that, you got to trust that you have influence with God and that God is answering what you are asking for. And you pray until that burden lifts. Now, hypothetically, what if you pray? Just like, you feel that burden, you have a sense to pray, you saw something in a dream, judgment or no judgment, whatever it is, you still saw it. And you saw it and you prayed, but then disaster happened anyway. Well, let me tell you this. The fact that you prayed, okay, it could have been a lot worse if you hadn't prayed, number one, or if you didn't know to pray and you saw something happen. I do want to encourage you that this is a point of learning, and that this point of learning, is that you are accurate. you are seeing real things in dreams. And next time you're going to know exactly what to do. And so do we give voice to it? I know most of the time I haven't. There have been a few times where I heard stuff was going to happen. I'll give you one. During COVID, I absolutely knew that there was going to be variants. I totally knew at the very onset of the first version of COVID, I absolutely knew that there were going to be variants, and it was going to be like the cyclical thing that we keep having to come against in prayer and in intercession. I didn't tell anybody except my prayer team. My prayer team knows how to keep secrets like that. It was one of our major prayer points from the beginning, before they even announced it, that it was a possibility, is we knew that there was going to be variants. There were intercessors on on the rails, and they were praying this thing down. Did it still happen? Yes, it did. Could it have been worse? It probably would have been. But there were intercessors. Was it the judgment of God? I'm not here to say it's the judgment of God. But what I do know is when stuff like that happens and you know it, you dream it, you see it, you actually pray into it. God is looking for intercessors. So anyway, I just want to share that with you. I want to answer that question. This is a good season for us to talk about it. I do want to encourage you to come to Awaken to the Dreamscape, as well as the Seers and Dreamers Gathering. And that is going to be powerful. There should be links for you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.